some lawmakers are already looking ahead to other big Trump agenda items such as tax reform. Joining me now to weigh in, Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs. Thank you for joining me, Congressman. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Liz. Good to be with you.
I just want to get your take. I mean, yes, I want to ask you if this version ever hits the House floor, what would happen, because that's obviously your area of expertise. But I want to get your take on this week. Were you surprised when you heard that Senator John McCain would be voting no?
Not really. I mean, I think the bill has some problems. He was consistent with how he voted no last time because he's basically asking for regular order and working with the Democrats on this by his explanation. I think that's pretty consistent when he voted no on the skinny budget. So,
okay, you said that the bill has problems. So let's just say in a hypothetical world, let's say we're to head to the House floor, it gets through the Senate, and goes to the House. Members of the Freedom Caucus, such as yourself, what would they not like about it?
Well, they're not going to like the fact that we're talking about, well, first of all, we don't really know what it's going to look like yet because they're buying votes right now. But what I think we're not going to like is we don't know whether the Title I regulations are going to be all lifted or still there. You've got some requirements that are not going to reduce premiums, for instance. They're going to increase premiums. Other places are really good. So, I mean, this is just what we do in Congress all the time. We get some good stuff like eliminate the individual mandate and employer mandate, but then we keep in some other things that are going to cause premiums to stay high.
There's been a lot of criticism that this particular outline, like you said, it's not necessarily something that will come into fruition, but that when it creates this set of fixed block grants, it's just redistributing funding for different states, which means those states that are going to lose funding are not going to vote for the bill. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think that's part of the problem. And then when the money runs out in 6 years, guess what? Every state's going to be back at the Congress saying, "Don't let us go." And so we're going to keep funding this in perpetuity.
Tax reform, because it's equally important, and it's something that we're starting to hear a lot about, because next week we will be seeing, we hope to see, a new framework. I want to ask you, especially with members of the Freedom Caucus, what do you want to see? Because if I remember correctly, at one point members of the Freedom Caucus said that they had their own tax reform bill drafted. Do you still have that drafted? Is that somewhere in lock and key? Could we ever see that?
Well, I think we have one drafted, and it's sitting there, and we want to be respectful of the people who are drafting the bill for the administration, House and Senate working together. So we don't want to really undermine what they're doing, but it's important that we get something in writing soon. I mean, real soon. We need the legislation so we can look at it. I mean, if you're going to give us a 1,000-page bill on Tuesday and say vote for this on Wednesday, that's not going to work because that's when we get into real problems. We need to make sure this is concrete. And yeah, the Freedom Caucus, I don't want to speak for those guys necessarily, but we've been working on a tax reform plan. That's true.
Okay, all right, Congressman. Unfortunately, because of all the breaking news we've had, we've run out of time. But I certainly have much more questions for you. But we thank you for joining us, so we very much appreciate it.